Now we're celebrating International Day of the Mother Tongue today. And yes, the United Nations has a very, very grim sort of statistic. It says every 2 weeks a language disappears from the face of the earth, taking with it an entire cultural and intellectual heritage. So we're going to be talking about that. I have here with me Kola Tubosun, who's a linguist. Thanks for being here today. Okay. How scary is that for Nigeria? Because I know that we've heard about languages sort of disappearing, even here in Nigeria. Mostly, I know I hear a lot about parts of Adamawa and Taraba State, where there are very small clusters of languages. Somewhere around the Niger Delta as well, you hear about that. Is it something we should start getting concerned about here?
Yes, I think we should have been concerned about this for a very long time. And it's not a Nigerian problem. It's a global problem, and it's more acute in Africa because we've also already had issues with language endangerment for a long time because of globalization, colonialism, etc. But now because of technology and the use of media devices now that are based only in English and other global languages, it's hard for many languages to survive. There are many languages now that have just a few hundred speakers in Nigeria. So yes, it's a big deal. And it's, eventually, I believe, eventually in Nigeria we're going to have just a few strong languages. Unfortunately. Yeah,
people say that English seems to be the biggest threat to languages, especially here in Nigeria. People tend to point to education. I mean, you're going to go to school anyways and learn everything in this one language without, having a solid base of your mother tongue. We're hearing every day, I see on social media, that Igbo people say, oh, our children are not speaking this language anymore. What should we start consciously doing as individuals now, taking it away from government or schools to make sure that we start to preserve this?
Individuals have a role. Speaking your language to your children is a big one of them. I think this is very important. But we can't rule out the role of government in making policies. The 1973 National Policy on Education suggests that the first few years of schooling should be done in the language of the child and the language of the area. But we haven't really done anything to implement it. One, because people don't take it seriously. Second, because there are private schools that have taken over, and most people would rather send their children to places where they speak only English rather than elsewhere. And the parents who decide consciously not to speak their language to their children. So that has to change. And there's some other work we are doing as linguists and people who work in technology to make sure that the technology that young people use today also reflects the languages we speak. Not just English and French and German and all this.
How much of a problem is, for want of a better term, inferiority complex? How much does it play in this? Because like you said, you hear a lot of parents who say, please, he has to speak English or she has to speak all English, almost sounding like, your mother tongue is a bad thing and it would affect. Meanwhile, a lot of us, I'm sure you speak more than one language.
Yes, I do.
You speak how many languages?
About 3 or 4.
And it hasn't affected your English. Exactly. So why is this perception about, speaking your mother tongue affecting how you speak English?
Yes, I don't know where it came from. And we have more prominent examples of people like Chinua Achebe, like Wole Soyinka, who never spoke a word of English until they were 6 or 7. And they have spoken about this in the past. And this prominent example, hasn't convinced people still of the fact that speaking your own language at a very early age before you transition into English doesn't hamper your ability to learn English, but also actually improves the way you speak English, because then you have a background and a grounding in the language of your own people, and then you can acquire many other languages. Actually, my master's thesis examines this among Americans as the fact that if you're competent in one language, your own mother tongue, in a certain way, it makes it easy for you to be able to acquire even many more other languages. There's some parts of the brain that opens up and gives you even more competence. So there is the inferiority complex. There are a number of other issues. Political issues, Nigeria, we always have this issue when someone speaks a language around you that you don't understand, you automatically feel suspicious. So that is a problem. But I think programs like this, educating people in the public and hopefully giving them other ways to look at it, and other countries that have made this work, like the United Kingdom, for instance, Wales has they have bilingual education. Anywhere you go in Cardiff, you have the signs in both English and Welsh, and many other countries have made this work. So we just need to highlight this and show that it doesn't reduce the ability to learn English. It kind of improves it. It doesn't reduce your ability to learn anything you want to learn, and it doesn't cause disunity. Many people have that issue as well, wondering that, oh, Nigeria has so many languages.
We have to
Are
be
you
united.
trying to, yes.
Like you said, it has to be deliberate, a deliberate effort. And I get very fascinated by, Nigeria will have one official language, and we have this talk about 3 major languages, which is now very dicey because people are like, what makes you major? Exactly. So English is our official language. Yeah. But I've been very fascinated by South Africa. They have 11 official languages, so you can speak any of these languages anywhere. You walk into a bank, you're speaking your language, Zulu, Xhosa, Afrikaans, whatever it is you want to speak in parliament, they're deliberating whatever language it is. Now, we have about 250 languages here, so it's a little dicey. Yes. But what sort of lessons can we learn from that?
Not even just from South Africa, even Switzerland has 4 languages, official languages, German, Italian, Romansh, and maybe French. And they also have English. And they have managed to make it work. There is no big political division that is caused by the language issues. In Nigeria, we have many more languages, makes it a lot harder. But in places like South Africa and Switzerland, there are laws there that devolve the responsibility of language policy and education to the local areas. They call it cantons in Switzerland. And maybe, it ties in, unfortunately, with this issue of resource control and all of that, where you give the regions an ability to decide how they run the areas they're in. And if we can do that in Nigeria successfully, again, if we can divorce ourselves from the idea of being suspicious of that policy as a harbinger of disunity, because it's not true. The Civil War we fought, the major participants there spoke good English and they understood each other in English. So it's not the English that makes the division happen. Yeah. It's, there are other fundamental issues that need to be resolved, and then make laws that let regions decide the educational policies and stuff like that. I think eventually languages would begin to grow and survive.
Is there an argument, and I'm a huge fan of this, but nobody ever agrees with me, is there an argument for Pidgin English in a place like Nigeria? Because it seems to be the most spoken language in the country, not officially, but it seems to be the one language that everybody understands. I remember I grew up in Benin City, and there was a Pidgin English news that came up at 5 p.m. every day, and I found that very fascinating. These days, you also find parents who say, please, English or, at worst, my mother tongue. Not even the Pidgin English, which seems to be there. Is there an argument of making a language like that a little more official, for us here? Because Creole is studied in several parts of the world.
I agree. Pidgin is a Nigerian language. There's nothing you can do about it. Nigerian English is a Nigerian language, which is also different from British English as well. I used to teach English in a high school, and I would tell my students what I've been told, to teach them that, plumber rhymes with runner or something like that. It doesn't rhyme. You can't pronounce the B, for instance. And Nigerians do pronounce the B. And in many ways, we speak English. We say senior brother, instead of elder brother, etc., which are authentic Nigerian ways of speaking. Also, the dictionary has recognized many of these. So Pidgin English is one of, Nigerian Pidgin, I call it not Pidgin English, for a number of reasons. It's also one of those languages that are important. It's a Nigerian language, like Patois is in Jamaica. And they probably have the same issue in Jamaica as well, where you speak this language, people tend to think of you as not being sophisticated, educated. But it's a language that we speak. Fela spoke it, Charlie Boy, and people have made a lot of great things with the language. Making things official in Nigeria, I think, is the issue. Transitioning from it being popularly accepted to it being used in formal spaces. And I don't think there is a problem there. We just need to have people who are in government understand that making these transitions doesn't reduce your standard of education, for instance. It doesn't prevent people from being successful and doing whatever they want. There are people in South Nigeria whose only language is Pidgin. And if you can teach them physics in Pidgin, and they can create great things, there's nothing wrong with that. Language is only a tool to help you get from one place to another.
Very quickly, one sentence, because we need to go. How worried are you about how imminent, this disappearance of languages in Nigeria is?
I am very worried about it, and it has influenced my work for the last 10 years or so. My work mostly in technology, but also in other spaces. Language diversity is a great thing, because language embodies a number of things more than just a means of communication. Sometimes a worldview is tied into, language. A quick example, we're talking about Ojo Ikunle one time on Twitter, which is the day of kneeling down, which is how Yorubas refer to labor, for instance. That idea, just being able to describe it in that way, tells you that in some parts of Nigeria, for a while, the way people had children was through a different way, a different posture, not the current posture we do now. So there are very many things that are encoded in language that we can learn and we can use to understand and probably, innovate and do a number of great things. And when a language dies, many of those worldviews, ways of looking at the world, ways of learning, medicine, etc., get lost with it. So I am worried, and I hope that with the work we are doing, and many of us as well, we're able to save as many as we can save and have a much better multilingual future.
Thank you very much, and please keep doing what you do. I'm a huge fan of languages. I barely am able to learn languages, but the ones I'm able to speak, I like to hold on to them, and it will be very sad to see that this disappear. Well, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure.
But once again, our heart goes out to the victims of the crash, the military plane crash that happened in Abuja, and we're still following developments there and hoping to get some sort of good news at least from that. But once again, our condolences to everyone affected by this. So like I always say, you can follow the conversation on Twitter. Robin Minds Now is the handle. Please use the hashtag Robin Minds when you tweet at us. Please still stay safe. COVID-19 is still real. Wear your mask, socially distance, and sit at home if you have nowhere to go. I'll see you next Sunday.